As a physician, I am familiar with death, but it became personal when my brother died. Less than 2 months after a diagnosis of cancer, fighting fiercely to get a little more time with his family. It was a noble and dignified fight. 4 years later, 6 years ago, my son was born. I named him after him. And for those first 24 hours, I looked at that little boy. We couldn't hardly sleep. And then it occurred to me, someday he's going to die, as are I. Now, as a doctor, I'm used to the patient that comes in and has an unlife-sustaining injury and looks me in the eyes and says, "Doctor, am I going to die?" And I have to say, yes, you're going to die today. Most of us aren't going to die in such traumatic fashion. Most of us are going to linger. We're going to live a long time. We're going to have our illness, like my mom, 89 years old, a little bit of dementia, but she's holding on and she's struggling, and you'll see why. Now, we naturally want to remember them. That's my mom, as this fierce, proud, intelligent pioneer woman going to Alaska in the 1940s. And she likes to remember me as that little guy there. But you know, the fact is 80% of us are going to die in hospitals. 10 in this room are going to die this year. Probably that row right there. My condolences to your family. But we in the hospital, we physicians, we're going to work to save your life for that last second, that last bit of time. And some people might criticize, sometimes we might go a bit far because it seems like a losing battle, but think about this. The Alamo, the Spartans, the 300 at Thermopylae, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Would you remember them if they just gave up? And so that's what we fight for. The dignity is in the fight. Now, I don't mean to say anything bad about those people who choose to stop suffering. I think that's a noble thing too. But when people who are young and immortal and say, "I'm just going to die on a beach somewhere," I want to remind them sometime that young people did die on a beach somewhere. And all of their family members would have wished they would have lived. Like my dad, who 70 years later came back to salute them. Something they would never see. We are all dying. Our cells die daily, they move, they go out, and if they don't die, they become senescent cells. And when they go to our eyes, we don't see too well. And for men, if they go to their prostate, we just don't pee too well. But longevity is cruel, and those same parents of mine, if you would have seen them 30 years ago when they were on the dance floor, they were like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. I saw people walk off the dance floor to see these two people dance, because youth just isn't for the young. It goes away. That, by the way, is my wife, which might explain why I was a 53-year-old father. After my son was born, my father said something to me I'd never heard him say. He said, "Children are fountains of love." And I realized to prepare for my death meant more than just things of memories. So I started a blog. Isn't that what we do? So every step along the way, my son will know what I thought of him as long as I'm alive. It's a blog meant for one. We're not going to monetize that one. But death is cruel. It destroys the bonds of life. It leaves us. And even the most loving families aren't brought back together by death. They're separated from it. I'm not a superstitious man. Even the last words of Houdini, as we heard, they've never been uttered legitimately again. And psychologists can tell us why people think they hear footsteps or see people. But I'll tell you this. In the last moments of life, if someone were to say to my son, "Oh, it's good he's at rest," I would defy them, because you know what? The best place for me to be is with him. So I'm going to struggle as long as I can, because I've seen what death has and what death does. And you know, once I'm dead, I really don't care. Put my ashes in a dustbuster, feed my parts to the bear, it's just fine. Because if any of us are alive or are spoken about in 200 years, it will not be the ignominy of death that they speak of. It will be the dignity of the fight we had with our life. Let's not race toward that. Thank you.